I hope you can see my slides. My name is Anna Bosnelis, indeed, from the University of Twente in the Netherlands. We are located in the very east of the Netherlands, very close to the German border. If you should ever want to visit us, you're more than welcome. I'm very thankful for the invitation to present my research today, which is about implementing HRM in innovation and the role of line managers. To start with, what is actually innovation? Why should we talk about innovation? Why should we study innovation? In order to answer this question, let me start with what innovation is not, and to go along with some myths about innovation. One of the myths of innovation is that it's all about revolutionary inventions. Well, there are different forms of innovation, and we distinguish between radical innovations, which are rather revolutionary, like, for example, the first color television, and incremental innovations, which are much smaller innovative ideas, which can be improvements or, small innovations that are not that revolutionary. Another myth is that innovation is only for science and technology companies. Well, we also distinguish between different innovations on the product innovation side, but there are also process innovations or service innovations, or innovations in HRM, for example. So it's not only for science and technology companies, but it can be valuable for all organizations. A myth is also that I'm not creative, so I can't be innovative. Innovation is a process that consists of different steps of innovation, where we distinguish I will discuss that a little bit further later on, the generation of ideas, and then you want to implement those ideas within the organization. Well, creativity is most beneficial when you want to generate ideas, but if you also want to implement them in your organization, you also need other qualities, and creativity can, in this stage of the innovation process, be rather harming, because then you change the idea all the time. Another myth might be that failure is not an option. Well, in innovation projects, of course, failure is an option, because you learn from every failure that you do. And it's also about improving the innovation that in such a way that it's usable and that it can be used and used effectively within the organization. Now, I hope you indeed managed to log into SendSteps in order to vote on a couple of statements I'm going to show you. One of the statements is, group brainstorming produces the most innovative ideas. You know that many organizations use group brainstorming for creating innovative ideas. And well, I want to know whether you think this is the truth or whether it's the myth. Let me just wait a couple of seconds. I'm seeing that 30 people already answered. Very well, thank you so much. On the next slide, we see the answers, and that's quite well, half of the population thinks that it's true, but I must unfortunately disappoint you, because group brainstorming, what happens in group brainstorming is that the first presentation that is shared, everybody will directly jump on the presentation and have comments on it and reject it or change it. And everybody will directly get busy with this one idea. So it's better to use a hybrid form of brainstorming, where you allow people to think about, to generate some innovative ideas alone, individually, and then come together afterwards and then discuss each individual idea after another, and then to develop it further based on the collaboration. Another statement is, wine is better than coffee for stimulating creativity. Well, is that wishful thinking, or is that really the truth, that we should use wine for creativity? Let's see what you think. I think we can be lucky. Indeed, wine is better than coffee for stimulating creativity. Coffee is, however, better if you engage more in routine activities and when you have deadlines to meet and need to be productive. However, for creativity, wine is the better solution. But I must warn you, it's only 2 glasses of wine. After that, the creativity level will go down. Thank you very much for participating in this. Let's see how we then define innovation. Well, there are different definitions of innovation. Here we already see a novel product, service, or production process. We see that innovation can be a product innovation, process innovation, service innovation, where we distinguish between the invention of the innovation and the implementation of the innovation, which leads to the innovation within the organization. And it's a process of turning opportunity into new ideas and of putting these into widely used practice. In my research, I focus more on innovation at the individual level, so the innovative ideas of employees in the organization, which is called innovative work behavior. This is the intentional creation, introduction, and application of new ideas within the organization, within a unit, a group, or the whole organization. We distinguish there between the generation of ideas. It can be based on trends and based on fashion, that people try to look for solutions to practices, to new ideas, based on opportunities, and to come up with new ideas that are better than those that we had before. Once ideas are generated, you want to promote them in the organization and also outside of the organization. In order to do this, you need to have sponsors, supporters. You need to build a coalition of people around you who also believe in the idea and help you to convince people that this is a good idea, but also investors maybe from outside of the organization or from inside of the organization who provide budget and also ideas and solutions. The last step of the innovation process is the idea realization, where you try to bring the product or the innovation to the market by building a prototype and making it user-friendly in order to make sure that it's used in the organization. We can use different human resource management practices to engage people in innovative work behaviors. These practices can be built on employees' abilities, like their knowledge, skills, and attitudes or behaviors, in order to become innovative. It can be based on employees' motivation to engage in innovative ideas, and it's maybe based on influencing employees' opportunities, such as designing jobs in such a way that people engage in innovative ideas and feel the freedom, shaping a supportive work environment where people feel safe and feel that they are allowed to come up with creative or maybe stupid ideas, and where a lot of exchange relationship between people who can collaborate on innovative ideas. Based on this AMO theory, we have done a systematic literature review based on 28 articles to look for the best human resource management practices for innovative work behavior. We found that there are all these HR practices are considered the best HR practice for innovative work behavior. On the ability side, it's training and development, which has a huge influence positive influence on innovative work behavior. However, motivation-enhancing HR practices are often based on extrinsic motivation, whereas innovative people are usually intrinsically motivated to do what they like, to do what their passion is. So these extrinsically oriented HR practices, such as financial rewards, might might feel those innovative people forced to innovate, and thus might have negative relationships with innovative work behavior. The same goes for job security. You would imagine that job security is good for innovative work behavior, which is also found, but on the other hand, also researchers have found that job insecurity is a better solution for innovative work behavior, because in this situation, innovation would be the solution to help you on a job or a long-term contract. So you use the innovative ideas to get towards job security in the end. Opportunity enhancing human resource management practices were actually found to be the best or the most influential HRM practices for innovative work behavior. Certainly autonomy, the independent decision-making ability of employees has a very huge influence on innovative work behavior, but also the task composition, so how much routine work or non-routine work is part of your tasks, job demands, time pressure, and feedback from supervisors or from people around you. Another research on human resource management practices and different dimensions of innovation was done in a production organization, so in a production context. They have looked at these practices: supportive supervision, training and development, information sharing, and compensation, and have distinguished between the different dimensions of innovative work behavior, which are idea generation, idea promotion, and idea realization. What they have found is that supportive supervision and information sharing are very positively related to idea generation, so they help to generate innovative ideas, whereas what might sound very much surprising is that training and development and compensation are negatively related with the generation of innovative ideas. The reason for this is that we are in a production context, and training and development in a production context is usually focused on efficiency of increasing productivity. And these kind of trainings are not very beneficial for innovative ideas or for creativity, which is part of the idea generation. Also compensation, we know from research, for example, from Janssen, that perceptions of compensation need to be fair. People need to consider compensation as fair. And obviously in this situation, people didn't consider the compensation as fair. Supportive supervision also has a positive influence on idea promotion and on idea realization, and compensation stays to be negative. Well, we see here that that line managers in the supportive supervision have a very important role already in innovative work behavior. But if we want to implement innovative ideas, there are a couple of issues. One is that many innovative ideas are never implemented within the organization. And that is not necessarily bad, because it's also a selection process of those innovative ideas that are really valuable to the organization, but also which bring added value. But there are also many situations where there's a budget cutoff, there's not enough time, the strategic objectives of the organization have changed, or just the management has changed and have other priorities. Innovative ideas may be differently implemented than intended, but it's a process. So during the promotion and realization of innovative ideas, these ideas actually might change towards the good or the bad. But in this process, there might be changes. Innovative ideas might be ceremonially adopted only, that people feign their acceptance and paying lip service to using them, but actually they put them in a drawer, close it, and throw away the key. There are various actors involved in the implementation of innovation, obviously the champions of the innovative ideas, but there are also a lot of promoters around the champions who help them in realizing these ideas. Line managers play a crucial role because of the supportive supervision, the feedbacks that we've seen earlier, and that many generated ideas first go to the line manager, to their supervisors, in order to get the first kind of feedback and help them to develop it further. Well, we wanted to know what implementation really is, actually. And to do this, I've done a research together with some Spanish colleagues, where we have looked into 3 different literature streams: innovation, obviously, change management, and strategic management, in order to understand what implementation is. And we developed a definition saying that implementation is a dynamic process. So it's not a linear process from intention to where the top management decides this is in the innovation and employees realize it, implement it as intended. But it's a dynamic process where people engage with the innovation and change it on the way, modify, shape it. It's a process that starts with the adoption of an innovative idea, its introduction within the organization, and it ends when it's routinized, when people use it in a routine fashion. I would usually talk about a new policy or practice or a new innovation. However, the innovation doesn't necessarily need to be new at all. It can also only be new for this organization or for this department or this unit. It involves multiple actors. That's the same in innovation, where we talked about the champions and the promoters, but also in human resource management, where we know that top managers, HR managers, line managers, and even employees are actors which engage in the implementation. And it's about the interaction among those actors who actually make sure that innovative ideas are implemented. Well, if you go down to human resource management implementation, we know from research that we have human resource management practices. These practices can lead to certain employee attitudes and behaviors, and these employee attitudes and behaviors then lead to organizational performance. Somewhere in between the human resource management practices and the employee attitudes and behaviors, the implementation takes place. Where we Wright and Nishi, but also others, distinguish between the intended human resource management practices, those who are developed and designed by top managers or HR managers, implemented actual HR practices, where the line manager plays an important role, and perceived HR practices, which are experienced by employees within the organization, on the work floor, for example. And only these perceived HR practices lead to certain valuable or to those employee reactions that you want within your organization. Also, there's another model of HRM implementation where we show that implementation consists of different stages, where we first decide to introduce a new HR practice. HR managers or senior managers might take this decision that we need a new performance management practice within the organization, for example. Then HR managers engage in the process of finding the most qualitative HR practices based on their expertise, based on what fits to the organization, based on strategic objectives. And then line managers engage in the implementation of these practices. They execute them within the organization. They translate these practices towards actual practices that can make sense at the operational level of the organization. And then they need to be evaluated, so the quality of the implementation is also part of the line manager's job. Sorry, I was too fast here, where also employees play an important role. So we see that also the implementation of HRM has some issues, because line managers may decide not to implement an HR practice when they think that it's not valuable for their teammates or for their part of the organization, or they just say it doesn't really, it's not for us. It may be also that they change the HR practices on the way, which might not necessarily be a bad situation, because they also know what better lends within their team and their unit and what makes people use it in the end. They may also ceremonially adopt HR practices, take the performance management practice and never use it, actually say they use it but never do, or they might there may be a lot of strong differences between the ways in HR practice is implemented in Unit 1 and Unit B. And so we see that here also line managers play a crucial role in implementing not only innovative ideas, but also human resource management practices. That was the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.